3 concerns about CERN 666, location of Satan, and mysterious statue. Number 1. Logo. The European Organization for Nuclear Research, commonly known as CERN, is an intergovernmental organization that operates the largest laboratory for particle physics in the world. It was established in 1954 and is located in the Mairin, a western suburb of Geneva on the border between France and Switzerland. CERN is made up of 23 member states, with Israel being the only non-European full member, admitted in 2013. CERN is also an official member of the United States General Assembly. CERN is an international organization that facilitates physics research. Multiple experiments have been set up at CERN through collaborations between various countries. The organization is famous for housing the Large Hadron Collider, LHC, which is the world's biggest and highest energy particle collider. Additionally, CERN is the place where the World Wide Web was created. The logo of CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, is stylized representation of particle tracks. However, some people believe that it resembles the number 666, which is commonly associated with the mark of the beast. This is merely a coincidence, but it has fueled speculation about the nature of CERN's work. The logo was designed by a British graphic designer named Marguerite Berquin, who was inspired by the tracks left by particles in a cloud chamber. The logo has been used since 1954 and has undergone only minor changes since then. This has led many to make a connection between CERN and the Antichrist. Throughout history, showmen have amazed audiences with elaborate hoaxes. These showmen didn't see their shows as deceptive because they believed that their audiences were willing participants in the spectacle. However, during the period of the tribulation, a new showman will emerge who will surpass all previous performers. Unlike typical showmen, his tricks will not be mere entertainment or freely chosen. This showman will convince entire nations to disarm and give him complete control by promising peace and prosperity. The Antichrist, along with his false prophet, will persuade millions that his government and economic system are the way forward. The original text contained an apocalyptic reference to a beast's mark. This has been removed in the rewritten text to focus on the positive message of the first 2 lines. What is the mark of the beast? According to the book of Revelation, the false prophet, also known as the beast from the earth, will implement a mark to strengthen the Antichrist's one-world rule. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Revelation 13 verses 16 to 17. During the tribulation, every living person will need to bear the beast's mark. Just like in ancient Rome, it will be necessary to function in society. Why 666? There has been much speculation about the significance of the number 666. Some believe that it is connected to biblical figures like Goliath, who was 6 cubits tall and wore 6 pieces of armor, or the statue of Nebuchadnezzar, which was 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide and had 6 musical instruments. Others have suggested that the number relates to leaders like Nero or other world figures. But all of these ideas are merely conjectures and do not provide any real insight into the meaning of the number. According to Revelation 13 verse 18, the number 666 is said to represent man. This is further supported throughout the Bible. The book of Genesis tells us that man was created on the 6th day of creation. while the Old Testament law required men to work 6 days a week. Furthermore, a Hebrew could only serve as a slave for a maximum of 6 years, and after 6 years of sowing, a field had to lie fallow. It's important to note that the number 666 doesn't necessarily represent an individual, but rather the human race as a whole. Some believe that the number symbolizes the pinnacle of human ingenuity and competence, as well as the Antichrist, the ultimate manifestation of man's attempts to rule the world before Jesus ultimately triumphs over all those who oppose him. Number 2. The Statue of Shiva. On June 18th, CERN revealed a new and unique landmark, a 2-meter-tall statue of the Indian god Lord Shiva. The Director General watched alongside Dr. Kadkorkar, and Mr. Chandrasekhar signed the guest book. This statue was a present from India, marking the long and ongoing relationship between CERN and India, which began back in the 1960s. It was unveiled by the Director General, Dr. Robert Amor, His Excellency Mr. K.M. Chandrasekhar, the Ambassador, WTO Geneva, and Dr. Anil Kadkorkar, the Chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission and Secretary, Department of Atomic Energy from India. This statue depicts Lord Shiva in his Nataraj form, which is significant in the Hindu religion as it symbolizes life force or Shakti. According to the accompanying plaque, it is believed that Lord Shiva used to dance to create the universe, is responsible for its ongoing movement, and will ultimately bring it to an end. Carl Sagan compared this cosmic dance to the study of subatomic particles. The statue was crafted in India using a wax model, soil mold, and liquid metal. After removing the wax, the metal was poured into the hollow mold, and the final statue was polished and given an antique finish. The statue can be found on permanent display in the square between buildings 39 and 40, which is just a short distance from the main building. However, some people have expressed concern that the statue is a sign of occult activity at CERN. Some individuals are concerned about the fact that Shiva, who is also known as the Destroyer of Worlds, is represented by a statue at CERN. They believe that the experiments being conducted by the organization could lead to catastrophic outcomes. On the other hand, CERN has dismissed these claims, stating that the statue is merely a symbol of peace and comprehension. Despite these assurances, some people remain unconvinced about the intentions of CERN. They believe that the statue of Shiva is a warning sign and that CERN is meddling with forces it does not comprehend. How are idols connected to spirits? Deuteronomy 32 verses 16 to 17, New American Standard Bible. They made him jealous with strange gods, to gods whom they have not known, new gods who came lately, whom your fathers did not know. This text clearly connects this worship with spirits. They are in contrast with the true God, the rock, in verses 15 and 17. Leviticus 17 verse 7 adds another important connection: a desire for supernatural contact with the spirit world often draws people towards powers apart from those offered by God through a relationship with Jesus Christ and His Holy Spirit. Idols have always been a concern to Christians. For example, in the Bible we see the result of the golden calf idol. This idol is strange, as it was created by a man that was a righteous spiritual leader. In Exodus 32, there was an unusual event that happened after the Israelites escaped from Egypt. According to the Bible, God miraculously parted the Red Sea, allowing the Israelites to pass through while the Egyptians were pursuing them. Once the Israelites had safely crossed to the other side, God caused the sea to close back up, drowning the pursuing Egyptians. During Moses' absence on Mount Sinai retrieving the Ten Commandments, the Israelites committed an action that is commonly seen in the Old Testament. They became irritated. Moses was on the mountain for a long time, receiving instructions from the Lord. 40 days and 40 nights, in fact. That was apparently too long for the Israelites. They were tired of waiting and were impatient. They despised the one whom God used to deliver them from slavery. This Moses. We don't know what happened to him. They also demanded that Aaron created an idol to lead them in Moses's and the Lord's place, a rejection of the first two commandments and a repudiation of their vow to obey the Lord. Tragically, Aaron listened to them and told them to bring him gold, which he fashioned into the image of a calf. This decision holds significance as the Egyptians and Canaanites, who were the initial occupants of the land promised to Israel, worshipped calf-shaped deities. As a result, Israel scorned the great I Am who had rescued them and instead worshipped a false god of the nations. The praise that was due to God alone was bestowed upon a gold statue. Aaron declared that they would hold a festival to the Lord, and the people brought burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. It's important to remember that the people performing sacrifices to this idol referred to it as the Lord, despite the fact that the true Lord had prescribed different practices. Religious synthesis always leads to false religion. When idolatry is mixed with Christianity, Christianity is no longer the same. People sat down to eat and drink before getting up to party. They were clearly not having a harmless celebration. Its foundation was rejection of the true God, and the party most likely incorporated corrupt cultic practices from other nations, such as drunkenness and immorality. Paul quotes this verse when he warns the Corinthians, "Don't become idolaters." Moses had been on the mountain for days in God's presence and was completely unaware of what was going on. God informed Moses that Moses's people, notice he did not say my people, acted corruptly and had quickly abandoned God in favor of idol worship. The Lord declared that they were a stiff-necked people who would be destroyed. After all, he would be able to turn Moses into a great nation instead. Moses didn't want to become the patriarch of a new nation without the Israelites. Instead, he pleaded with God to spare them from destruction. He didn't make the appeal based on their worthiness, but on God's reputation and character. Moses descended the mountain, carrying the 2 tablets inscribed with God's writing. While Joshua was on the mountain with Moses, he heard commotion coming from the Israelite camp and mistakenly thought an enemy invasion caused it. But Moses was wiser. Moses was filled with anger when he witnessed the people dancing around the calf. This led him to break the tablets in disappointment, as Israel had broken the covenant made by God with them in a short span of time. The Israelites were made to drink the powder of a burnt calf, which was a consequence of their sin. Exodus 32 verses 21 to 24. Then Moses said to Aaron, "What did this people do to you, that you have brought such a great sin upon them?" And Aaron said, "Do not let the anger of my Lord burn. You know the people yourself, that they are prone to evil. For they said to me, 'Make a god for us who will go before us. For this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we do not know what happened to him.' So I said to them, 'Whoever has any gold, let them tear it off.' Then they gave it to me, and I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf." Moses had a confrontation with his brother Aaron, who was tasked with leading Israel to know and obey God. However, Aaron led them into committing a serious sin. Instead of taking responsibility for his actions, Aaron shifted the blame to the people, as if they coerced him into it. Then he made this absurd claim, "When I threw the gold into the fire, this calf came out." As a result, he falsely implied that the idol was created supernaturally. Moses recognized that the people were out of control. Despite the fact that he had confronted them with their sin, many remained unrepentant. So he exclaimed, "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me." When the Levites gathered around him in response, Moses dispatched them to carry out God's judgment on those who continued to practice idolatry and immorality. As a result, 3,000 men were killed within a short period of time. Sin is no joke. It brings death. The next day, Moses reminded the people of their sin and declared that he would intercede with God on their behalf. This is followed by another remarkable example of intercessory prayer in the Bible. Moses confessed the people's sin and pleaded for their forgiveness. If God refused to forgive them, Moses requested that God destroy him instead of them. He was ready to give his life for this ungrateful, sinful people. We also see this in the image of gold. King Nebuchadnezzar gave the order for the creation of a colossal statue made of gold. The gold statue that Nebuchadnezzar had commissioned must have been magnificent. It stood 90 feet tall. It's possible that the king planned it so that he could consolidate his power by bringing together all levels of his officials for a grand ceremony. These rulers were to attend the dedication of the statue erected by King Nebuchadnezzar and fall face down in worship of it. Everyone who disobeyed this command ran the risk of being cast into a burning furnace and being burned to a crisp. Everyone obeyed Nebuchadnezzar's orders because he was determined to establish himself not only as the uncontested political leader of Babylon, but also as the supreme religious authority in the city, or at the very least, almost everyone. Due to the fact that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were among the officials that were present at the massive gathering, a confrontation was unavoidable. 3 of the men in the room did not bow down even though everyone else in the room did. Many people cannot imagine that social pressure. It was not an easy fit. When Nebuchadnezzar found out about the situation, he immediately flew into a rage. It's surprising that he gave the accused a chance to respond to the charges leveled against them. That he did may indicate his regard for them. But make no mistake, the king would accept only one response: total concession. They had 2 options: either worship the enormous gold idol or perish in the fire. Despite his earlier praise for the Hebrew God, Nebuchadnezzar added, "Who is the God who can deliver you from my power?" The king's question, as before, would be answered eventually. These valiant Jewish men defied the king's direct order and placed themselves in the hands of God. Their response is quite impressive. In other words, they said, "We'd rather fear our God than your furnace any day. Even if he decides to let us burn, we will still serve the living God rather than your dead idol." Priceless. They preferred death to unfaithfulness to God and had no doubt planned for the possibility of this day for a long time. It is hard to fathom how angry Nebuchadnezzar was when his authority was challenged, but reportedly, his face turned red with fury. In response, he ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than usual. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were tossed into the flames, the radiant heat was so great that the men carrying them were killed. No doubt wearing flammable clothing, the faithful Hebrews had no hope, unless hope itself intervened. It was God's standard for Israel to be different from the nations around them, but they had not obeyed. Sin always hurts. It always shackles. One reason Israel fell to the Assyrians was God's anger over Asherah and Baal. Number 3. Is this the location of Satan? Many theorists have come to think that CERN is the location of Satan. What is CERN, and why do people think that Satan is located here? I will tell you, and I will also tell you precisely what the Bible said. Due to its close ties to Pergamum, many people believe that CERN is the location of Satan based on a text in the book of Revelation. Rather than CERN, The book of Revelation shows us that at a particular time, Satan was located in Pergamum. Revelation 2 verses 12 to 17, New American Standard Bible. And to the angel of the church in Pergamum write, the one who has the sharp two-edged sword says this, I know where you dwell, where Satan's throne is, and you hold firmly to my name and did not deny my faith even in the days of Antipas, my witness, my faithful one, who was killed among you, where Satan dwells. But I have a few things against you, because you have some there who hold the teachings of Balaam, who kept teaching Balak to put a stumbling block before the sons of Israel, to eat things sacrificed to idols, and to commit sexual immorality. So you too have some who in the same way hold to the teaching of the Nicolaitans. Therefore repent, or else I am coming to you quickly, and I will wage war against them with the sword of my mouth. The one who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who overcomes, I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give him a white stone, and a new name written on the stone, which no one knows except the one who receives it. So, what is Pergamum? Now, when you get to Pergamum, the surprise is to find that it's really two cities separated by about 400 or 500 meters vertically. There is the lower town of Pergamum, now called Asclepalion, and then the upper town, the Acropolis. The word Acropolis is made up of two words, acro, which means summit, and polis, which means city. So the Greeks were very fond of building cities on summits as Athens was. Indeed, one of these 7 is called Little Athens for that reason. So we have the Pergamum town on the summit, and then this steep hill. There's only a little winding road up to the top, and you come right down into the valley. And there, on the plain, is the other city of Pergamum. Let me start down at the bottom one. For 300 years, it served as the capital city for the Attalids, and later for the Romans. After the last Attalid king bequeathed it to Rome, it became the capital city of Asia. Although Ephesus was a more significant city, the Roman governor resided here and not in Ephesus. The lower city is now centered around a massive hospital, and the residents' primary concern is health. The Asclepalion, a temple dedicated to the god of healing, Asclepius, is located here, hence the name of the lower town. Asclepius was known as the savior for his ability to cure people of their diseases. Today, it is still a fascinating place to visit. In ancient times, there was a temple of health with a hospital surrounding it. The hospital had wards and baths with natural spring water for bathing. One fascinating feature was a long tunnel with holes in the roof that connected the baths to the wards. As sick people were transported through the tunnel, priests of Asclepius would shout out through the holes saying, "You're healed! You are healed!" This voice coming up from the hole would give them hope and assurance. The symbol of Asclepalion, the god of healing, was a serpent, which is still used on the Royal Army Medical Corps badge to this day. As you walk around the lower town, you can feel the towering presence of the Acropolis, which is far more impressive than Edinburgh Castle. It's a sheer mountain covered with ruins on the top, some of which are spectacular. The top is what we are concerned about, and it's one of the most spectacular visits we made. Wealth and health tend to go together, since people who are making money are concerned about health, since losing health means that nothing can be done with the money. This has led to an increase in the interest in health in our country in the last 20 years, and many health stores and health foods have opened as a result. On top of the hill, there are 3 temples, 4 in total, 3 of which are dedicated to Greek gods and 1 to a Roman emperor. The 3 Greek gods are Athena, Dionysus, the god of wine, and the surrounding area is full of vineyards, and Zeus, who is considered the most important among them. The Temple of Zeus was the most magnificent among all the other temples. While the others were quite small, the Temple of Zeus measured 90 feet square and 20 feet high atop its base. It had a podium which was like a base with steps up the front. I can show you a picture of it in a moment. On the steep hillside, there is a theater that is located on a steep slope. However, once you reach the top, you can find several temples. The second largest library in the world was also situated here, with the first one being Alexandria University. Even today, you can still see the library where they kept all the parchments and books. On top of the Acropolis, you can find several temples, including the famous Temple of Zeus. On top of a towering hill surrounded by temples, libraries, and theaters, there was a colossal armchair situated in front of the Temple of Zeus. From this vantage point, one could overlook the lower town. The chair emitted a constant column of smoke, making it an awe-inspiring sight. Some believe that this temple and the enormous armchair may be the location mentioned in the Bible where Jesus talks about Satan's seat or throne. The black smoke rising from the chair was visible from the valley below and dominated the view. According to some accounts, this was Satan's actual residence on earth. Although he would visit other parts of the earth, this is where he lived permanently. This was his throne and the capital of his kingdom. The city that once served as the capital of earthly kings for 300 years now stands as the capital of the kingdom of this world. In Matthew 12, Jesus referred to this world as Satan's kingdom, using the phrase, "How can a kingdom divided stand against itself?" He spoke of Satan as the ruler, prince, and god of this world. As you look up at the towering Acropolis, you may feel a certain level of unease. In the same passage, Jesus also says, "I know where you live," conveying a sense of permanence rather than temporariness. This means that the people had no chance of moving away. I believe you must reside in that location permanently, and I understand that you must stay there. However, he does not allow any wrongdoing in the church to be excused because of that. This is quite remarkable. Jesus is compassionate, but he does not ignore what is wrong. He is firm and understanding of the challenges we face, but he does not condone compromise. There is a beautiful balance in this approach. While Satan has agents everywhere, he is not omnipresent and can only be in one place at a time. This was his chosen location, a high place. Antipas is an intriguing figure. He was the first person to die as a martyr from the 7 churches of Asia, even before John himself. He was imprisoned for being a traitor, but had not yet died. However, he was the first person to be martyred in the churches of Asia. His name is significant as anti means against and pas means everyone. So Antipas had to stand alone against everyone. In the book of Revelation, Jesus describes Antipas as his faithful witness and special person. The Greek word for witness is martyr, which means someone who gives a faithful testimony in court. However, over time, the meaning of the word martyr changed. Nowadays, when we hear the word martyr, we think of someone who dies for their beliefs. But during the early years of the church, being faithful to the truth about Jesus often meant facing death. As a result, the word martyr took on a new meaning. When Jesus called Antipas his faithful martyr, he meant that Antipas had paid the ultimate price for his faith. Is Satan in hell? Satan is not currently residing in hell. Instead, he is believed to wander the earth, trying to entice people into committing sins and turning away from God. This is mentioned in 1 Peter 5 verse 8, which advises people to stay alert and vigilant as Satan is like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. It is believed that Satan operates both on earth and in the heavens surrounding it, rather than being confined in hell. Satan is walking through the earth. Satan is not omnipresent, which means he is not present everywhere at once. He is a finite, created being, and omnipresence cannot be attributed to him. Ezekiel 28 verse 15, Satan was created by Christ, who created all things, Colossians 1 verse 16. However, Satan was not originally an evil being. He has boundaries and is not infinite in any way, including his presence. Only God is omnipresent. Psalm 139 verses 7 to 11. The book of Job tells us that Satan can travel to heaven and roam about the earth. Job 1 verse 6. This demonstrates that the devil can move between different locations, but he is never described as present everywhere. Satan and his demons have abilities that humans do not, but they are still limited. In Luke 8 verse 33, it is mentioned that the demons had to leave the possessed man of the Gerasenes to enter the pig. Similarly, in Matthew 4 verse 11, Satan is described as leaving Jesus after tempting him. This means that if he left Jesus, he was no longer present with him. Therefore, it is clear that Satan is limited in space and time. Satan is known to be a deceiver, as mentioned in Revelation 12 verse 9. He tries to make people believe that he is omnipresent like God. However, this is not true. Satan fell because of his sin of pride and his desire to be like God, as mentioned in Isaiah 14 verses 13 to 14.
Something very strange is happening in these places. This huge development in these places could set the world up for the mark of the beast. Number 1. Davos, Switzerland. With strange titles like the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum has long been suspected of being the organization that will introduce the mark of the beast. Watch this video to the end to learn this organization's strangest plan and how Christians should respond to it. The World Economic Forum, WEF, is a non-government organization based in Kolawole near Geneva, Switzerland. It was started on January 24, 1971, by a German engineer named Klaus Schwab. This organization gets most of its money from 1,000 big companies that make over $5 billion annually. They also get some money from the government. Their main goal is to improve the world by bringing together leaders from business, politics, and other areas to help shape important plans for the world, different regions, and industries. The forum believes that the best way to handle a globalized world is through a group of chosen multinational companies and governments. They show this through ideas like the Great Reset and the Global Redesign. The WEF is best known for its big annual meeting held at the end of January in Davos, a mountain resort in Switzerland. This meeting gathers about 3,000 paying members and special guests, including investors, business leaders, politicians, economists, celebrities, and journalists. They spend up to 5 days discussing global issues in around 500 sessions. How should a Christian view the Great Reset by the World Economic Forum? In June 2020, the World Economic Forum, WEF, hosted its 50th annual conference in Davos, Switzerland. At the Davos 2020 conference, the term the Great Reset was introduced, and the Great Reset Initiative was launched. The concept of the Great Reset has been around since at least 2010, when the book The Great Reset by Richard Florida was published. The World Economic Forum's plan for the Great Reset wants to change how countries relate to each other, how economies work, what societies focus on, how businesses operate, and how the world's resources are managed, as mentioned on their website. At the 2020 conference, there were 3,000 people from 117 countries, including 53 leaders of nations. The supporters of the Great Reset want to create a new global system with a lot of control over different areas of life. This has led some people to question if the Great Reset is linked to the Antichrist rule in the end times. Revelation chapter 17 verses 12 through 13 tells us that 10 kings will team up with the beast during the tribulation, sharing power. They will then fight against the Lamb. Verse 14. Since the Antichrist's future rule is known to be evil, any move to gather economic or political power might align with Satan's plans, no matter how helpful these plans seem. If the objectives of the Great Reset are achieved, it could lead to the establishment of a global governing body, a concept that Daniel views as a frightening entity. Revelation chapter 17 verses 12 through 15. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour, as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. These will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with them are called, chosen, and faithful. Then he said to me, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. This is likely referring to a 10-nation confederation. Regardless of their specific identity, their actions are obvious. This mysterious figure rules over all the people, crowds, nations, and languages in the world. The prophecies and warnings found in the Bible are not just historical or theoretical concerns. They are highly relevant to the spiritual challenges we face today. When faced with the challenges of the Great Reset and otherworldly plans that resemble the rebuilding of the Tower of Babel, how should a Christian respond? First, refuse to worry. Remember that all the schemes of the godless will come to nothing. We learn from Proverbs chapter 12 that God condemns those who devise wicked schemes. The real Great Reset will happen when Jesus Christ returns, bringing true justice, peace, and fairness to a world that desperately needs it. Number 2. The EU and chips. Pay attention, America. The sign of the Antichrist is already underway. A recent World Economic Forum update discussed a topic called the race for advanced AI chips. In this post, they shared a link that said, right now, demand for the advanced chips needed to power AI is skyrocketing. In response, many leading technology companies are unveiling new models of AI chips. Intel, Meta all announced their latest AI chips. NVIDIA unveiled its new AI chip at its annual developer conference in March, promising super-fast processing speeds. The semiconductor company is a leading manufacturer of the graphics processing unit, GPU chips needed for large language models. This year, it has become the third largest public company in the world by market capitalization. Chips are the building block of a new type of economy. The economy will indeed change. No matter what industry you are in, consumer goods, healthcare, shipping, the business processes are becoming AI-enabled, says an expert in AI in the enterprise. The post then went on to say, many countries, including the US, the EU nations, and India, are heavily investing in new semiconductor facilities to build the wafers that form the base for advanced chips. However, it will take many years for these facilities to become operational. This has fueled the belief that the prophecy of the Bible in the book of Revelation is underway, particularly the concept of the mark of the beast. Number 3. Australia and the RFID chip. What's happening in Australia? Australia is quickly using RFID technology everywhere. Plus, Australia is trying out RFID for tagging fish, tomatoes, and other foods. Let's compare Australia with another country that has a similar number of people and similar money habits, the Netherlands. The Netherlands is known for using RFID technology a lot, especially in places like sports events, such as football games. They use RFID cards and other RFID tools for many things. Radio frequency identification, RFID, uses special waves to automatically find and track small chips attached to things. This technology has been around for a long time and is used for many purposes, like tracking medicine, library books, cars, jewelry, pets, and even wildlife. RFID helps easily locate and quickly identify these items. It's also used in car keys that don't need to be turned, and for paying with a card without touching it. Now, RFID chips are being put into people. Some companies have given their workers these chips, so they can just wave their hand to open doors, pay for food, and use the copy machine. People who support these RFID chips for humans imagine a future where no one needs to carry a wallet or passport, where lost children and seniors can be found easily. Kidnapped people can be rescued quickly, and doctors can see a patient's medical history instantly. RFID technology is becoming more popular worldwide, but there are worries about health, technology, and ethics. For those who read the Bible, an RFID chip might seem like the mark of the beast mentioned in Revelation, especially since many of these chips are put in a person's right hand. The mark of the beast in the Bible. The book of Revelation tells us about the mark of the beast. When the Antichrist, also called the beast, is in charge, everyone, whether rich or poor, free or enslaved, will have to get a mark on their right hand or forehead. This mark is needed to buy or sell anything. It will show the beast's name or a number connected to him. By making this mark mandatory, the beast can control buying and selling. If the mark is an RFID chip, it can also track everyone and see their personal information. Number 4. Sweden. Also, we have reports of Johan Osterland from Sweden, who implanted a microchip under people's hands. This is a scenario that is happening more and more in today's age. The company is called Biohacks International, and over the past few years, he is reported to have done this procedure over 4,000 times. Many people are worried about such chips and technologies due to the power of controlling buying and selling using similar technology. Osterland thinks that his company's success is connected to Sweden's openness to new technology, which might worry people in other countries more. Because of our history, we trust the government more here, he said. People in other countries might be more worried than we are in Sweden. Just like in our previous examples, this situation reminds people of the book of Revelation, especially in chapter 13 verses 16 to 17. It talks about a mark on people's hands or foreheads that could be linked to new technology and events that might happen during the Great Tribulation at the end of time. This has caused many to think, could this really be the technology that the book of Revelation prophesied about? It is actually amazing to think that the book of Revelation is so relevant, although it was written 2,000 years ago. The mark of the beast will identify those who worship and submit to the rule of the beast. Those who refuse the mark will be considered traitors and may face starvation or immediate death if captured. One scholar describes this period as a time when both capital and labor are under the control of one man. Those outside of this system will be boycotted, unable to find work, buy or sell goods, leading to bankruptcy and starvation. According to the Bible passages in Revelation chapter 16 verse 2 and chapter 19 verse 20, the mark of the beast is a symbol that distinguishes those who worship the beast out of the sea. Revelation shows us the economic strategy of the first beast and the second beast. Revelation chapter 13 verses 16 through 17. Also he compels all, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor, and the free men and the slaves, to be given a mark on their right hand or on their forehead, signifying allegiance to the beast, and then no one will be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. He causes all to receive a mark. A mark will be given to everyone under the government of the beast and his associate. This mark is necessary to participate in the economy, and those without it will not be able to buy or sell anything. Only those bearing a special number on a visible part of their body, hand or forehead, will be allowed to trade, and the number will only be marked on those who engage in imperial idolatry. The number 666 is the coded name of the dictator. We have already discussed its meaning, the nature of apocalyptic writing. Until he arrives, when his identity with this figure will be only too obvious, all attempts to decode it are useless speculation. One thing is clear: he will fall short of perfection, 7, in every regard. The word haragma in the ancient Greek refers to a mark, but it is not commonly associated with people. Thus, some interpret it as a symbolic mark. However, the idea of a physical mark required for buying or selling is not impossible and could be practical. Revelation chapter 7 verses 3 through 4. Saying, "Do not harm the earth nor the sea nor the trees until we seal. Mark the bondservants of our God on their foreheads." And I heard how many were sealed, 144,000, 12,000 sealed from every tribe of the sons of Israel. The Antichrist is described as a man whose appearance was greater than his brothers. Due to his charismatic personality, speaking abilities, and outstanding good looks, he will be extremely irresistible to the masses. The Apostle John adds to Daniel's account of the Antichrist's blasphemous activities by stating that everyone alive must worship him. Finally, the Antichrist is referred to as a beast in Revelation chapter 13 verses 1 through 8, which is an apt description. Throughout the final 3.5 years of the tribulation, the Antichrist will personify Satan himself. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 9 says, "The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders." The Antichrist will progress from being a regional leader to a world leader, a ruthless global tyrant, and finally, a god. The number of the beast. Revelation chapter 13 verse 18. Here is wisdom. Let the person who has enough insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the imperfect number of a man, and his number is 666. The usage of numbers as symbols is very common. The book of Revelation has a large number of sevens, including stars, lampstands, lamps, seals, trumpets, and bowls. It is the round number of the Bible, the complete, the perfect figure. 12 is associated with the old people of God, their tribes, and the new, their apostles. 24 brings them together. 1,000 is the largest number. 666 is the one that captures attention. It is made up of sixes, a figure that always alludes to humans' inability to achieve the 7 that represents complete perfection. It is used here as a clue to the identity of the last world dictator before Jesus reigns for 1,000 years. In Latin, a millennium. Is it significant that 666 is the total of all the Roman numerals except 1? The word mark in the Bible doesn't have any special meaning except for its link to the beast. In Greek, the word charagma usually meant a stamp or a seal used on documents or coins. Charagma was often used as an official seal of the Roman Empire on important papers during the 1st and 2nd centuries. In addition to its use in Revelation, the term charagma appears only once in the New Testament, specifically in Acts chapter 17 verse 29, where it refers to an artistic image. Acts chapter 17 verse 29. So then, being God's children, we should not think that the divine nature, deity, is like gold or silver or stone, an image formed by the art and imagination or skill of man. Who is the Antichrist, and how will we know him? The Bible tells us that during the tribulation, one man, the Antichrist, will rise up to bring the world together under one rule. Just like his father, the devil, this evil leader will seem like a good guy at first, but he will eventually show his true wicked self. How will he bring the nations together? The prophet Daniel describes the Antichrist in these terms. Daniel chapter 7 verses 7 through 8. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. Daniel tells us that the next big leader will be famous for their impressive speeches, which will make people pay attention and give them control. But Daniel also warns us that the smooth talker will not only speak grandly, but will also speak with pride against God. The Apostle John talks about this leader in the book of Revelation. The beast was given a mouth to speak proud and disrespectful words, and power to act for 42 months. Revelation chapter 13 verse 5. And the beast was given a mouth, the power of speech, uttering great things and arrogant and blasphemous words. And he was given freedom and authority to act and to do as he pleased for 42 months, 3.5 years. Who will worship the Antichrist? According to Revelation chapter 13 verse 8, all who dwell on the earth will worship him. According to Daniel chapter 7 verse 25, the Antichrist is a cult leader. He shall speak pompous words against the Most High, and shall intend to change times and law. He will speak out against heaven's genuine God. The terminology suggests that he will attempt to elevate himself to the level of God and make statements from there. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 4 says, "The Antichrist opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. He will accept the worship of the people of the world." Does the mark of the beast exist today? Many of us wonder if the mark of the beast in Revelation chapter 13 will be a high-tech tattoo or the plan of a billionaire. The Bible makes it very clear what the mark is and when it will happen. To begin, there is a strict timing requirement for the mark. Scripture teaches that the mark of the beast will appear at a particular time and place in history. But at this point in time, we have not yet arrived at that time or place. The reason why the mark of the beast is referred to as the mark of the beast is because it is brought into being by a man who is referred to as the beast. So, until the Antichrist is ruling the entire earth, there can be no mark. And since the Bible says the beast and his mark do not appear on earth until the midpoint of the 7-year tribulation, then the mark cannot exist in any form prior to the tribulation. Therefore, any suggestion that a mark of the beast exists today in any form is merely a forewarning.